Welcome to Wallace on Wire. Today we're talking about the recent High Court ruling concerning former Prime Minister Muhyiddin Yassin's application to retrieve his passport for international travel.
It's a really fascinating case. On the surface, it sounds simple. A request to travel for medical reasons.
Right, a straightforward approval. But when you dig into the details, it's anything but.
Exactly. The court approved the passport's release, and that's the headline. But the real story is in the extremely tight conditions that came with it. It's a very calculated decision.
A calculated decision, I like that. So the court gave him permission, but it came with a very, very short leash.
A very short leash. They granted the medical necessity, but clamped down hard on anything else.
So let's get into that. What was the specific purpose that the court actually approved? What was the reason they said yes at all?
The main reason, and the one the court really seemed to respect, was his health. The ruling was clear that he could travel to the United Kingdom for a necessary annual medical review.
And this is for his pancreatic cancer treatment, right?
Yes, that's correct. It was positioned as vital for his well-being. The judge also allowed him to visit family there, specifically his 3 grandchildren. So the court was clearly prioritizing the health aspect.
But the prosecution wasn't just going to let that slide, were they? I mean, Deputy Public Prosecutor Mahdi Abdul-Jumat had some major objections.
Oh, absolutely not. They came out swinging, particularly against the proposed duration of the trip and some of the extra stops he wanted to make.
So it wasn't the trip itself, but the timeline and the itinerary that were the problem.
Precisely. They were worried about setting a precedent. If you grant one high-profile defendant a long trip, it creates a sort of a chain effect.
It's a chain effect. So everyone else facing charges would start asking for the same thing.
That was the fear. And it seems the judge shared that concern, especially when it came to the timeline.
So Muhyiddin's legal team, led by Dr. Kamir Hamza, what did they ask for originally?
They requested the passport be released to him until January 12, 2026.
Okay, so a fairly long period.
Right, and High Court Justice Norin Badarudin looked at that and cut it down significantly.
How significant are we talking?
It was a major reduction. The new deadline for returning the passport is January 5, 2026. He can only hold it starting from December 8, 2025.
So they shaved off almost 3 weeks from the end of the request.
Mm-hmm. And it's not even handed directly to him. The passport gets released to his lawyer on December 8th, and it must be back in the court's possession on or before January 5th. It's all about control.
Strict control.
Yeah.
And that control wasn't just about the dates, it was also about the destinations. This is where it gets really interesting, with the detours he had planned.
Yes, this is where you can see the judge separating essential travel from, let's say, personal leisure.
Let's talk about those rejected pit stops. I understand he wanted to stop in Dubai and Madrid. What happened there?
Okay, so with Dubai, the request was for a 5 to 6 day stop on the way back from the UK.
That's a pretty long layover.
It is, and the judge explicitly said there was, quote, no reason for such a long stop. It was immediately limited to just 1 or 2 days, maximum.
So enough time for transit, but not enough for a mini vacation.
That's the message. Loud and clear. Transit, yes. Leisure, no.
And what about Madrid? That was shut down completely, wasn't it?
Completely rejected. The plan was to meet his wife and some family there after his UK medical trip. The prosecution opposed it, arguing it was unnecessary, and the court just agreed, no Madrid.
Wow. So UK for medical and family, a quick stopover, then straight back to Malaysia.
That's the approved plan. Anything else was deemed non-essential.
There was also a sort of a warning from the judge, right? Something about the flight tickets being booked in advance.
Yes, and this is a really key part of the ruling. It came out that Muhyiddin had already booked his flights before the court had even given its approval.
That feels like a gamble. A pretty big one.
It's a huge risk. The judge pointed this out, saying he proceeded, quote, at his own risk. And the judge also warned that this kind of action could set a negative chain effect for future applications.
So it was a bit of a slap on the wrist. A reminder that the court's approval is not a foregone conclusion.
It's a procedural rebuke. The judge is basically saying, we can be compassionate, but don't take this process for granted.
To be fair, this isn't the first time he's been allowed to travel, which might explain some of that confidence.
That's a very important piece of context. He has been granted permission before. There were trips to the UK for a grandchild's graduation and medical consultations, a checkup in Singapore.
I think there was even a trip to Thailand for a friend's restaurant opening.
Yes, that's right. So there is a history of the court showing some leniency. But perhaps because of that history, the prosecution and the judge are now scrutinizing every little detail of these new requests.
Which brings us to the elephant in the room. the reason his passport is being held in the first place, the gravity of the charges against him.
Hmm. And we're not talking about minor allegations here. The scale is enormous.
Let's break that down for our listeners. Can you detail the abuse of power and bribery charges?
Of course. He's facing 3 charges of abusing his position as prime minister to accept bribes. The total sum is staggering. It's RM 232.5 million.
232.5 million ringgit.
Yes. And these bribes were allegedly given by 3 companies: Bukhari Equity Sendiri and Berhad, Nepturis Sendiri and Berhad, and Mamfor Sendiri and Berhad, as well as an individual, Datuk Azman Yusof.
And this was all connected to a specific government program, correct?
It was. The allegations tie these payments to the Jana Wibala program. This was an economic stimulus package meant to help contractors during the pandemic.
So the charge is that he used his power as prime minister to direct projects or funds in exchange for these bribes.
That is the core of the allegation, and it allegedly took place at the prime minister's office in Putrajaya between March and August of 2020 while he was in power.
On top of that, there are also the money laundering charges.
That's right. 3 more counts of money laundering, involving a sum of around RM 200 million.
200 million ringgit. So how do these 2 sets of charges connect?
They are directly linked. The money laundering charges allege that this RM 200 million, which came from illegal activities connected to Bukhari Equity, was then moved into the bank accounts of his political party.
Which is Parti Pribumi Bersatu Malaysia.
Exactly. The money was allegedly funneled into the party's accounts at AmBank and CIM Bank between February 2021 and July 2022.
So if you put it all together, we're looking at charges related to alleged corruption and money laundering that total nearly 500 million ringgit.
Yes, and when you understand that, the court's caution makes perfect sense. They have to weigh his right to medical care against the very real need to ensure accountability and, frankly, prevent flight risk.
The stakes are incredibly high. Not just for him, but for public trust in the whole system.
Without a doubt, if you step back and look at the ruling, it's really quite surgical.
Yep.
The judge managed to navigate this complexity very carefully. They carved out an exception for the essential health needs, the UK medical trip, while being absolutely ruthless in cutting out anything that looked like leisure. The long Dubai stop, the Madrid trip, all gone.
It sends a very strong message, doesn't it?
A crystal clear message. It says that genuine health concerns will be respected. But the court will not allow those compassionate grounds to be used as a loophole for personal travel. Justice remains paramount.
It really highlights the tightrope the judiciary has to walk in these kinds of high-profile political cases.
They have to protect an individual's rights while also upholding the integrity of a legal process that involves the highest office in the country. It's a huge responsibility.
So this brings us, and you, our listener, to the big question here. Thinking about the sheer amount of money involved, nearly 500 million ringgit, and the severity of these charges. What do you think? Should the court be even stricter? Could there be a near-total ban on international travel for politicians facing these kinds of major legal battles?
Or is prioritizing a necessary medical checkup the only humane and proper decision a judge could make in this situation?
It's that classic tension, isn't it? Compassion versus the national interest in seeing justice through. It's a question of the very heart of political accountability.
And one without an easy answer.
Ultimately, the level of judicial rigor and transparency we're seeing here is crucial. This decision will undoubtedly set a precedent for any future cases involving high-profile figures. Remember to like and subscribe for more videos like this.